Hello, welcome to Charlotte's Lookalike Library Field Edition. Today I'm going to be talking about an invasive species called Lesser Celandine and how to tell it apart from some of its common lookalikes so that when you go to remove it, you know you're digging up the right plant. So real quick, why do we want to remove it? Because if it goes unchecked, you end up with a situation like what I'm standing in. It's highly invasive. It displaces a lot of our wonderful native spring ephemerals that come up this same time of year, and it completely takes over. You often find it in floodplains, but it can grow in lawns and really anywhere. So getting to know what it looks like, being familiar with it is really important so that you can remove it before you end up with a situation like this. So some important features to look for, you can notice it has some very shiny green leaves that have a wavy margin. They're not toothed, but they just have a nice little wave. The flowers are shiny yellow. They have several petals, and the stalk, as well as the leaf stems, are very fleshy. Each flower stalk only grows one flower. Some of the lookalikes have multiple flowers per flower stalk. And then, of course, very importantly, is if you dig it up, if I can get some out here. Oh yeah, here we go. You'll notice it gets these little, they're called bulbils, or they're little underground storage organs, like little tubers. Think of a potato. These, unfortunately, are very good at spreading. So if you dig these up to remove them and you leave even a single one of these little bulbils, you'll get a new plant growing out of that next year. Lesser Celandine is a member of the Buttercup family, so it comes as no surprise that some of its lookalikes are too. Now let's compare to some lookalikes. Marsh Marigold is the most commonly mentioned lookalike, and this lovely native flower can be distinguished from Lesser Celandine in several ways. First, it prefers to grow in wetter soils, more swamps, seeps, stream banks than Lesser Celandine. Secondly, flowering timing is quite different. Marsh Marigold flowers much later in the season. Here in Virginia, February to March is when you start seeing Lesser Celandine flower, whereas Marsh Marigold, it's closer to May. In terms of appearance, Marsh Marigold tends to have larger leaves and several flowers per stalk, as opposed to one flower per stalk on Lesser Celandine. And importantly, Marsh Marigold doesn't have the characteristic bulbils that you see when you dig up Lesser Celandine. One more thing, if you look closely at the flowers and you flip them upside down and look at the underside, Marsh Marigold does not have green sepals, whereas if you look at the underside of Lesser Celandine flowers, you'll notice 3 to 4 green sepals, and that can be a really helpful indicator that you're looking at the right plant. A couple more lookalikes that you might come across in a similar habitat to Lesser Celandine. When they're flowering, it's actually very easy to tell them apart, but before they're flowering, sometimes the leaves look quite similar. We have yellow violets. You'll notice the leaves are more finely toothed, more pointed at the tip, and they tend to be a darker color, and they're not as shiny green. Then we have Kidneyleaf Buttercup. I find this one to be the trickiest to tell apart. This is a native buttercup, and the best thing that I've noticed to tell them apart is if you look at the base of the stem of the leaves, you'll notice there's a purple coloring on the Kidneyleaf Buttercup, whereas the Lesser Celandine has a very white base of the stem. When in doubt, just wait for them all to flower, because you'll notice that the flowers are completely different. Thanks for watching. If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel, comment, and let me know what other plants you're curious to learn how to ID.